Hey my friends, welcome back to the Pop Culture Cafe. I am Huck, and the Hitchcock love continues. What's with these hands here? Look, all I can say is I'm continuing to plow through all the movies in this big old Hitchcock collection, and this time I went with the second film in here, and it is 1943's Shadow of a Doubt, starring Teresa Wright and Joseph Cotten. And according to the making of in here, and according to Hitch's daughter, Shadow of a Doubt was Hitchcock's favorite film of his. Was it mine? Stick around and find out. Alright guys, let's continue these reviews for my first time watchings of all these Hitchcock films. Now before I tell you all about Shadow of a Doubt, please do me a favor, if you're new to my channel, please hit like and subscribe and smack that notification bell so you get notified the next time I do my next Hitchcock review. But yeah, here it is, man. This is Shadow of a Doubt. I just checked it out. So I guess we're kind of on a black and white roll because I just did the one Saboteur just before this one. So anyway, yeah, so it stars Teresa Wright and Joseph Cotten, and they are fantastic. The whole cast is really good. Great supporting cast in here. Hume Cronin is in here that Hitch has used on other occasions. And there's also Patricia Collinge as Emma Newton, who plays Joseph Cotten's character's sister. So the story goes, there's been a murder that's been committed, right? And we don't know if it's him or if it's someone else. There are two suspects in this film. The other suspect is never seen. He is just mentioned. And the person in question has killed three well-to-do women, strangled them, and taken all their money. They were widows, so that they were married to rich men. The men all died, and these rich women inherited their money and flaunted it about, in his opinion, quite carelessly. And who are these people? In fact, there's a fantastic speech that Joseph gives at the dinner table about rich, fat women who are like just the worst in society. And it's a really amazing speech. There's some good dialogue in this film. And like the camera just pushes in really slowly, like in profile during this whole speech. And it's a very telling moment. And so Joseph Cotten's niece, that's the one played by Teresa Wright. She plays Charlie Newton. Now Charlie is named after Joseph Cotten's character, Charlie Oakley. So it's Charlie and Charlie, right? Because the sister loves Charlie so much, she named her daughter Charlie after him. So they talk about being twins and that they're connected by blood and they have this lovely little connection. But then she gets to be very concerned and accusatory of him, wondering if he is this killer or is it that other person. But she's not sure because, you know, Joseph's Charlie is acting very strange, and it's odd that he just sort of shows up and wants to hang out with the family all of a sudden, you know. So, yeah, so there's this very interesting dynamic between the two Charlies as they sort of bond but then get pulled apart, and it's very interesting. Now, there are some detectives that show up, of course, wondering about Charlie and if he is the one that they're looking for. So they're slow playing it, and she's, I don't know, she's sort of digging in a little bit, you know, looking at the newspaper article that he was trying to hide from her, realizing like, why are you hiding this? And then the very article he was hiding was the article about the killer. So if he's not the killer, why hide the article? So there's this guessing game that's going on throughout the film. This film is also a little bit different in that it's very intimate. So far, all the ones I have seen feel, I was going to say like a bit big and broad, but they're not. Like Rope and Rear Window are absolutely intimate films. Things like North by Northwest and Torn Curtain, those are more sort of jet-setting type things. But this one's one of the most intimate because it's basically, you know, a house and evil comes in. Or is it evil? You know what I mean? Like the problem comes into the house. And then it's all about the family dynamic and how they get along. There's also a couple of kids in this film as well that do pretty well. The daughter is very good. It's also, you know, Charlie's sister, younger sister, played by Edna Mae Wanacott. And she's like this super brainiac kid. She reads all the time. And she's also super suspicious of she doesn't warm up to Uncle Charlie. We'll just say that very well. But eventually she starts to come around. And then it's sort of like as she's coming around, that's also when her sister Charlie is becoming less comfortable around him. So there's this interesting shift that starts to happen between like the Charlies and the kids and all that stuff. Now there's also, I want to point out this one other actor, Wallace Ford is in here, who plays Fred Saunders. And he's one of the detectives. He's the photographer that catches a photo of Uncle Charlie without his permission. And that's the real telling moment, is snapping that photo. And he was from one of the old Mummy movies I watched last year. I totally recognize his face. I'm like, hey. He was from the Universal Monster movie, The Mummy's Tomb, which was a year earlier in 1942. So I completely recognized his face. So it was really interesting seeing him in this film. It's like seeing actors in films today that we see all the time, like Paul Giamatti is in this film, or Bruce Campbell's in this film. Right? So these actors pop up in a lot of these films from their time. So that was also very cool to see. Now that's kind of going to do it for my review. There's definitely other things that happen and situations between the characters that I don't really want to get too much into or give away, but it's a very well-crafted, well-shot film that really gets very intimate in character relations and character dynamics throughout this film. So yeah, so we're just going to leave it at that. Where would I put Shadow of a Doubt in my Hitchcock viewing? Now it's funny because I said earlier in the intro that this is Hitchcock's favorite film, but it's not really mine. You know, like I see why he likes it because of the intimacy and bringing evil into the house and that kind of stuff. But for me, this one was a little bit slower paced. It took a while to kind of get there and get that sort of drama and the dynamic and the tension and all that. I don't know. I was not as engaged and overwhelmed and as I have been in some of the other Hitchcock films that I've been watching. So I would definitely not put Shadow of a Doubt higher on my list, maybe in the middle, slightly like middle lower, but definitely a good watch nonetheless. And this is another fun thing about watching these lesser, like I don't hear anybody talking about Shadow of a Doubt. Like I recently did Torn Curtain. I don't hear anybody talking about Torn Curtain. So Shadow of a Doubt, because it doesn't have the gimmick of, say, the Statue of Liberty that Saboteur had, so everybody talks about that. This one I had not really heard of. So this was definitely one of the quieter, less spoken about films, so it was nice to check this one out as well. Alright, so that's going to do it for now, guys. Thank you so much for checking out another Hitchcock review. I really appreciate it. If you're new to my channel, get on down there and hit like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. And until next time, go watch some Hitchcock, y'all.